Economics 101 after the shiur. Tov, hello everybody. We are now mamash a week and 2 days before Purim. We've decided at the end of last lesson, after we sort of decided we've been stuck on learning too little or too long, that we're going to try to go a larger swath of the Megillah. Try to reach at least Perek Zayin by Tuesday, by next Tuesday. Okay, that means we have today is Tuesday, Sunday, Tuesday. 3 lessons. We're going to try to push to get to at least a Perek Zayin. So we're going to be moving a little ahead, a little quicker. No source sheets. I have a source sheet here anyway because we have to see something. There's something I have to show you. But besides that, we're going to sort of be going inside more. I'll be saying things outside, and you guys, Be'ezrat Hashem, will learn. Tov, I want to remind you, we're up to verse 4 in chapter 4. We saw the Mordechai's attempt to not be silent. That's sort of how we ended. What Mordechai was attempting to do is not remain silent in the face of oppression, in the face of injustice by the government. We said that is what a Jew does. A Jew is not quiet. A Jew yells. A Jew screams. We said Am Yisrael in Mitzrayim yell. That's the beginning of the Geulah. And here Mordechai goes out and he yells and he's not quiet. And we also said that what he does is he unsettles everyone else around him. In other words, as opposed to being complacent and everyone saying, it's just a horrible, horrible thing that's happening, and just being quiet, Mordechai says, you can't be quiet in this case. Everyone or anyone who wants to connect to what we talked about the second before this lesson started can think himself. Tov. Verse 4. Esther's maidservants and her servants come and they tell her. Now, we talked about last lesson if they actually knew she was related to Mordechai. I'd prefer, it fits my reading better to say that they didn't know. Just as no one knows who she's from and where she's from, they don't really know of a connection between her and Mordechai. They say, there's this crazy guy out there, Mordechai the Jew, who's wearing sackcloth and screaming all kinds of crazy things against Haman and saying it's horrible things are happening, and he's making quite a scene at the front of the gate. And she is immediately is shaken, and she sends clothes to dress Mordechai, and he doesn't accept them. This is where we ended. She sends clothes to Mordechai, and he doesn't accept them. We said there's a tension between them. In other words, she wants him to wear clothes. He doesn't want to wear them. And he sends back to tell her something. Just at that point, it's really, really powerful to understand where Esther is. Esther is still going by the previous plan. The previous plan is she is a strategic piece, a very important strategic piece of Mordechai, and let's call him the Jews' plan at the moment. She has the most powerful position in the world, pretty much, as far as a Jew can get. It's this interesting one, because no one would have thought it would be the queen, maybe an advisor, maybe so. But look, this is what we have. We have a queen, our queen, in the palace. She's as close as you can get. She is a super important position. Now, one of the big dangers, and this we mentioned when we talk about Yosef, one of the dangers that people have when they get into power is the confusion whether their power is what's important, or their power allows them to do what is important. Okay, I'll say it again. My chair, my position is important. Therefore, in a sense, everything can be sacrificed for my position, because my position is the most important thing, because I may be able to do things in the future, because I may be, or my position is only as powerful as I can use it to do what is right for my people in this sense. And this is the confusion that Esther is in. Esther, Jews and politics go so wrong. This is why Jews and politics have to learn the Megillah. No, I'm dead serious. This is exactly what. That Esther in this position is saying to Mordechai, me? What do you want? What? Well, in a second, he's going to tell her to go to the queen, and then she's going to, maybe let's read those psukim, okay? He doesn't accept the clothes, right? He doesn't accept the clothes. Esther wants to close them up. Let's go on. V'tikra Esther la'atach, she calls us atach, and she sends him to Mordechai. What in the world is going on? Hatach goes to Mordechai, and Mordechai tells him, we did this last lesson also, he tells them what happened, he tells them the money, he tells them the pachegen, we saw the Malbim and Rav Yoni's Shita of how to explain those three parts. But that's not so important for us for right now. But she tells us, the end of verse 8, Litzavot alea, he commands her through Hatach, through the emissary, she says, you have to go to the king and demand your people, to save your people. In other words, your people, Amma, which means she's going to tell who her Am is. In other words, all these years, this is 5 years later, all these years of keeping this secret with amazing tenacity, right? To not tell what she is. Suddenly Mordechai says it's over. Go and tell the king. And it takes Esther some time to maneuver from where she is to where she's going. And now she says to this. She says like this, and which is right. Vayavo Atach v'yagid Esther divrei Mordechai. Atach comes and tells Esther Mordechai, and then Esther says, all the king's servants and all the people of the kingdom know that any man or woman who come before the king to the inner chambers, inner courtyard, who is not called, will be immediately put to death, except if the king puts out his raised scepter, and then he'll live. And I haven't been called to the king for 30 days. So what exactly is she saying? She's saying, let's say, basically,
anymore because basically
I don't what?
She's basically saying that she doesn't have that much faith in Hashem since that she's...
It doesn't say like that in my Megillah. What do you mean faith in Hashem?
Because she's not taking the risk of
oh,
being really
Ezra, it's not so easy to take this risk. This is a real risk.
Also, she's been educated in a way that
by the way, that street,
you have to have means in order for action.
Esther's been educated in a lot of ways. One of the ways is not to rock the boat. Esther doesn't rock the boat. I just want to remind you guys, why is anyone who approaches the king going to die? We talked about this maybe in the past.
Haman's been locking him out.
Because, Haman has, Achashverosh has been locking himself out. Achashverosh, after Bigtan V'Teresh, you have to remember, Bigtan V'Teresh has to always remain in our minds. He has no more people have access to me. Really, you have to understand, the first person who shows their face, they would just shoot him down, chop his head off. I don't know how it worked. Achad Datol Lehamit wasn't through a judge and jury. That's not what we're talking about. The minute she steps into that courtyard, she could have her head cut off. And she doesn't seem herself as any different than anyone else. But she doesn't say, oh yeah, I'm the queen, I can talk to the king. Afuch. I haven't been called to the king for 30 days. Now that is an interesting, we'll talk about that in a second, what she's saying by that. There are two different schools of thought. What she's saying. What? It's a good way to treat strangers?
Strangers. Like people that you've barely met. You know, you say hello to them every once in a while. You don't need to call upon them all the time.
Wait, you're saying that's how they react to how he's treating Esther here?
Yeah.
Well, for sure, strangers, maybe even more than strangers. We'll say that in a second. But just this understanding that Esther is really putting herself in danger. Okay, it's a real danger. The king has separated himself both theoretically, philosophically, governmentally, and also personally. He is completely taken himself out of the game. In this sense, everything is Haman. This is what he wanted. This is his plan. He wants one person who he trusts to take care of everything. And Mordechai is telling her to go, and she says, are you nuts? I'll go and I'll get killed. Now we, looking at this, are like, excuse me, dear, if you don't do this, your whole country, your whole people will be destroyed. Like we're like looking at from our side, and we're like, huh? What is this? So what is this? Where's your a little bit, not even courage, come on. If it's all up to you, we really maybe even would expect this of any man or any woman, to say, listen, if it's up to you, and it is your life in danger, but it's everyone else's life in danger, we will expect you to do it. And it's actually a logical, expectation.
Well, the thing is that no matter what, she's always going to be in a lose-lose situation. Either go to Achashverosh and risk being dead, or wait till Haman kills all the Jews and she'll end up with them as well.
Why? That's exactly what Mordechai is going to tell her in a second.
No, but
Gonna
she
say
can wait
you.
to be summoned. You never know. A week, 2 weeks.
Okay, that's one of the explanations of.
urgency
That's one of the explanations of the 30 days. Once I'll get to that in a second. So what Ariel is saying. I just want to say again, strengthen her position on the philosophical level. Esther is saying, we'll see, this is exactly what Mordechai is going to tell her. She thinks that her position is so important that it's not worth blowing. It's not worth blowing this position. She's saying, Mordechai, think a little bit. I am your joker. I am your highest card. What, you want me to go blow it? It's on a not safe plan. We haven't thought it out yet. Whoa. No. Yeah, there's all kinds of, let's just take this easy and breathe and we'll see. But remember, I am your card. And listen to what I want. So now, before we go on, the two options, right, of what I haven't been called for 30 days. The first is, not what Ariel said, that Ariel said was a little deeper. The first explanation is, listen, the king doesn't even remember my name. In other words, the king hasn't called me for 30 days. I'm his wife, for goodness sakes. I haven't seen him for 30 days. You think I have any sway with him? This is what she's saying. I have been marginalized. As we said, this is a class for adults. He has not been celibate, is that the word? Celibate for these 30 days, okay? She understands that the king apparently, and this is probably not something new, wants her to understand her place also. In other words, from Vashti's time on, Esther was never the only woman in his wife. I don't know if he was in Vashti's time either, but it's very clear to Achashverosh that she shouldn't get in her mind that she is the one and only. She's one, but not the only. It's important. Achashverosh is keeping Esther in her place. And she understands that, and she's correct in this understanding. She's saying, you overestimate my sway on the king. I am not even called to his presence in the past 30 days. You expect me to come and ask to go against his vizier, who he just made in charge of everything, and come and say something? You overestimate me, Mordechai. I am not that person that you thought I am. I'm important, I have a position, but I am not that important. The danger in your request is too great. That's one way of reading. The other way of reading is sort of what Ariel was saying. And that's saying, listen, I haven't been called for 30 days. It's going to happen sooner or later. He's going to call me. Let's just wait, okay? 30 days is a long time. Let's wait a little longer. I'll probably call in a week, in 2 weeks, and then let's move ahead. Whatever it is, Esther is not, according to Mordechai, as we'll see in a second, really understanding the problem here, or the depth of the problem. So, right, Esther divrei Mordechai. He said, sorry, let's go on. Mordechai divrei Esther, correct. Someone said here, suddenly hatach disappears. Maybe we'll be able to lityaches it for we'll relate to it in a minute. But now Mordechai says, and I just want you to say here also, you understand. Vayomer Mordechai la'ashiv el Esther. Just so everyone knows, this is the only direct speech of Mordechai in the whole Megillah. Not one sentence do we hear Mordechai say in the whole Megillah, except this. Even the pasukim we're about to read are dramatic enough, but that really, really puts a spotlight on this. In other words, there's one thing that Mordechai says. This is what he says. And listen to what, there are two pasukim here that are just really the heart of the Megillah. I also say it breaks the story. What Mordechai here says suddenly is going to break the political story, just the story of what we've had. The story we've had until now was sort of like a Persian fairy tale. Up until now, there's a bad vizier, there's a beautiful girl, there's a nice uncle, there's a crazy king. It's perfect. We can put this in any Persian fable that you want. But suddenly, Mordechai breaks the story with a very deep religious statement that we're like, whoa, where does this come from? And this really is the flip of the Megillah. If we talk na'afochu, the Megillah flips all the time. It flips from the spin that we did. It flips from who's chosen. It flips from one kind of empire to another kind of empire. Na'afochu isn't just that the Jews beat their enemies. The whole Megillah keeps flipping around. And here is the flip.
He's switching philosophy.
Well, he's switching philosophy, and he's saying all the philosophy that I've espoused until now, it was built on a deeper one. And this deeper one, suddenly we get a glimpse of it. Let's take a look at what he says here in these two. Vayomer Mordechai la'ashiva Esther. Mordechai says to Esther, Al tidami benafshech limalet bet hamelech mikol haYudim. Don't think to yourself, don't imagine to yourself that you will flee to the king's house from all the Jews, which is a very scathing critique. Okay? Because if you are quiet at this time, redemption and savior and safe, the Jews will be saved and redeemed from somewhere else. Chazal point out, makom acher may be the only mention of God in this thing. Makom, Hashem is called a makom, mi makom acher, possibly, but it's on a remez, right? It's not exact. It's a hint. Ve'at ubet avich tovedu, and you and your father's house will be destroyed. Umi yodea, and who knows if for this exact reason, la'et kazot, for this point in time, you have reached your position. You got the malchut. Wow. So let's start off at the beginning. Al tidami benafshech limalet bet hamelech mikol haYudim. Don't imagine in your soul that you will be able to hide in the king's house from all the Jews. Saying, this is what she's thinking. Okay, this is important to understand. He's only saying this because apparently he got her very well. He got exactly what she's thinking. But he calls out the lie. He calls out the problem in this. She is really a good girl. She is not running away. She has come to believe her own act, which happens to many people in many positions. They come to believe their own act. They come to believe that they are God's gift to the world, in one sense, and in this sense, God's gift to Am Yisrael. It's me. I am the one. He says, don't think you can hide. You can save yourself in the king's house, because that's really what you're doing. Because you have forgotten that you are a shlicha, a messenger.
Just like Yosef.
You are a messenger. You are not the wife of a king. You are not the person in power. You are a messenger for your people. That is, don't think you can hide in the king's house from who? Mikol HaYehudim. You are they. You are you because they are they, not the other way around. They're not they because you are you. You are your position for them and because of them. Don't forget who you are. And don't forget why you're there, which is really the important thing. Now there's this, in Jewish thought, this idea that I am a messenger, I am part of a nation, and I am working for them is basic. It's really important. It doesn't allow a Jew to live for himself or on his own. It just doesn't allow it. Doesn't matter if you're the highest of high or the lowest of low. As we're going to see, everyone's going to have to give matanot levyonim on Purim. Even if you're a pauper, you have no money at all, you have to give matanot levyonim. Even if you're
given to the poor, right?
Well, matanot levyonim is giving to the poor, right? Correct. Everyone has an interconnectedness with others. There's no way to say it is me, my job is more important than other. No, you are for others. It could be your job is very important. I'm not saying that other people, there are hierarchies everywhere. But I am connected to, I'm responsible for You can't think that your job is so sacred that you can pull yourself away from what's happening now to the Jews. And he'll go on now and deepen this statement. Because if you're quiet at this time, you have to know that the Jews will survive. But you and your father's house will... What's the word? Tovedu. Tovedu. Do you guys remember that word, tovedu? It's the word, the tricky word, right? That the Malbim and Rav Yoni Grossman grab to say that la'abed isn't lashmidu la'arog. And let's say if we want to follow the Malbim, so it's either slaves or lose your religion. Remember that's how the Malbim explains tovedu, right? That's it, right? That he says that he wants to la'ovid, that Haman wants to la'avid at the Jews, and the Malbim says here it's to lose the form of the religion. So here I must say the Malbim says he's going to die. That's how he explains. But I'm going to use the Malbim like he said it before. And when he says, V'atu betozlich tovedu, he says to her, you won't be Jewish anymore.
Which is even worse.
In a sense, it's worse. You won't be Jewish anymore. I don't know if you'll die physically. You may survive this. But one second, just to finish this. You may survive this time, the Jews will die. I'll tell you, some Jews will remain, that's for sure. But you, as a Jew, you're done. Yeah.
Do you think this is Mordechai pointing to the great bigger picture? Like the whole reason why we say that Purim is great or greater, perhaps, than Yom Kippur, because he sees the bigger picture that now it's a time for the Jews to accept the Torah. And if she's forgetting herself and choosing her position over her people, that's then not just she loses, but everyone loses, because it means that it won't be us bringing ourselves to the Torah. We'll have to be saved another way, which is a lesson.
I didn't get exactly what you're trying to say. Try to give it as a... I'm sorry. I didn't get exactly what the point is.
It's like we have to make the difficult journey towards the Torah this time. And
you're building this on the Midrash Chazal that they re-accepted the Torah in Purim time, okay?
Yeah. So if Hashem had to step in at this point and save them in another way...
I understand. Okay, I understand. Then it would have been a rejection of that idea of being Torah Sheba'al Peh, Am Yisrael accepting the Torah.
Exactly.
I hear what you're saying. I'm not sure that's what's concerning them at the moment, but it may be connected to that. But I'll say it's more connected to the Yom Kippur idea in my mind, that Mordechai here says a sentence of faith, which is shocking. It has never, as far as I know, been spelled out so clearly in the Tanakh, even though it's been mentioned and hinted to for sure, that the Jews will survive. Revach v'atzala ya'amod la'Yehudim mimokom acher. I am not worried about the existence of the Jewish people. That is an act of faith. Who says? Who says? What happened? Maybe not. Maybe some madman, some crazy genocidal maniac will manage to kill all the Jews. Mordechai, as a statement of faith, says this is not going to happen. He's sure of it. That I'm sure. There's one thing I'm sure of. That is not going to happen. I'm not sure why you got to your position. That's right. He says, maybe who knows if this is why you got to your position. That I'm not sure about. There's one thing I'm sure about, that the Jews will always, and this is a splice the other way, Yosef. This sentence is a sentence of what we talked about, the Yom Kippur aspect, the determinism aspect, that there is something that Am Yisrael have that is not up to man, and it doesn't matter what will happen in history. History is man's playground. There is something above that, right? Hysteria, as the Rav Kook likes to say, the hidden God in history, he has a hand here too. This will not happen. Mordechai's belief, I think we talked about this a little bit when we talked about determinism, the goralot, the lots, right, of where the lots are, the lots before Hashem or before Haman, that Purim has a statement that is, and I think this is like the shorish of that. Am Yisrael have a connection to Hashem that is unbreakable and will never be severed. Never. It can't be severed. Now, if you look, I was thinking, we could bring many psukim in the Torah, in the Nevi'im, in the Ketuvim that relate to this aspect, which is a heady aspect, right? And as the Jews in Europe, I don't know if you guys know how these things were, 75 years ago, many Jews told a story of being sure they were the last. I don't know if you've ever heard any of these things. They were sure, really sure, they were the last Jew. In other words, this statement that Mordechai says was shaken to its foundations by Hitler Yamach Shimon more than anyone else. We know it was 6 million out of 18 million, so it wasn't a real statement. But Jews through history have been in stages where you had to raise this. The question came up. The question came up. You had to have Mordechai and other great men who can look at reality and say, this is not going to happen. It's not. I don't know what. I don't know where. It's going to come from somewhere. But it's not going to happen. It is the Jew connecting to his eternity, connecting to Hashem, the eternal promise, which breaks history. It's a statement that breaks history. History is not only man-made. Hashem has a hand in this. And that's really what makes us unique. It's really what makes us different from everyone. This statement of Mordechai's statement, a moment before, right in the middle of the Persian exile, is what's going to lead the Jews throughout exile. Knowing this, you always keep this, even if you're being slaughtered by the Cossacks or by the whatever it is, in the Inquisition, in the Germany, in the pogroms, in here or in Saudi Arabia, wherever it is, where you're getting slaughtered. This idea. You can kill me, you cannot kill my nation. You can't kill my belief. It's really what holds Jews for many, for a long time. Yeah.
So is the Hatzalah here, is that the Yirmiyahu's prophecy of 70 years? He said, meaning you're going to come out.
This is after that prophecy.
This is after.
This is after the prophecy existed. They've come back already. They're people in Israel.
The people in Israel.
Yeah, so the Beit Mikdash hasn't been built according to Chazal.
So then we have to question, of course, is everything doesn't hinge on her necessarily. Only what hinges on her is the Jews in.
No, the Gzirah is on the whole 127 countries.
But there are Jews elsewhere in the world, or possibly?
Yeah, not that we know of. This is 127. No, there are no Jews in America yet.
Include, of course, the Jews that are.
Yeah, for sure. For they're one of the.
That's how we distinguished from what we just said with the Holocaust.
For sure. Even though the Jews in the little Jew in a Russian shtetl, what did he know of where people are in the world? Where did he know where the Germans got to? They didn't know where the Germans got to.
You know what a German was?
What?
Do you even know what a German was?
Oh well, he did, unfortunately, at that point. No, I'm talking about this. No, I'm talking about the point in the war when he was thinking he's the last Jew. They didn't know if Germany captured the whole world. They haven't heard news in 3 years. They don't know. They just see more and more power, and nothing's happening. And
in this case, we're saying, okay, the whole Jewish population.
For sure. That's what it seems to be. Tov. Okay, so this is pretty powerful stuff. Okay, really, again, what he's saying, and he says again. Now, listen. One of the problems with what he says here is if the Jews are going to be saved, then what can Esther say? Okay, so why do I have to risk my life? If the Jews are going to be saved. So this is the flip side of determinism, right? What we talked about. You've convinced me. Okay, so now why do I have to risk my neck? Let's do this. Just wait. Hashem will come and save us.
It's the very point that he's just made, is that if you don't try and tie yourself to God, then you're not considered Jewish.
That's what he's going to answer. In other words, that's he'll say there's actually two parts to this answer. One is the Jewish nation will continue, but you will lose your card, your membership card, in that sense. You will lose but there's another statement that has to be said. And this is, there is also a place for man in the world. And the Jews will continue, but who knows how many thousands of them will be killed? Who knows how many thousands will be hurt well, you have a position to do something. We are not determinists. Mordechai says that there's a double-edged sword here. We have things that are eternal, but we also act on the stage of history. And on the stage of history, you have to do what's right and what's brave and what's correct and what's moral in the situations you are. And if you have a position to do good for the Jews, you have to do it. You have to do it. So it's both ways. I believe it will be saved. We will be saved, but that doesn't mean you don't act. I think there's something about Judaism that holds these two things together that are a little bit soter. They don't work together exactly when you sort of think one through completely. They're a little contradictory. You think one through and the other through. You could either leave this way or we don't. We have both of them. We have both the knowledge that Hashem is holding this whole story, and the other is that we must act in it. And that our place in the story will be by our actions. All this Mordechai hands to this poor lady who he's demanding her to go in to pull off all the charade she's been putting on for 5 years. Everything she believed in politically, he's saying now is the time to stop. And again, I'll just say, we've said this many times, that a politician who doesn't know when to say, this is it, he lost it. He has disappeared from his power has disappeared. He turned himself into the power and not someone who wields the power. Power has consumed him and he doesn't exist anymore. It's a danger everyone goes through. Everyone does, including parents and teachers and pretty much anyone who's in the society of man who doesn't know when to say ethically, this is it. It could be a group of friends doing something together and suddenly someone goes over the boundaries of what is morally acceptable and you are quiet. You're quiet at that point. What happened? You've lost a moral backbone that is demanded of you. It's demanded of you. I always say there's one, I haven't seen many movies, but there's one scene I find in, I don't remember what the movie is called. Two friends are arguing. One of the friends has an option to be like something very, very big, and he comes back. It's a very famous movie. Anyway, he comes back to be with his friends and not going on to the great thing because he just wants to be with them. They're like steel workers. They have no real job, but he wants to be with them. And then his friend comes and he yells at him. And he says,
Ariel says
No,
the
I
name
didn't say.
Is he a mathematician?
yeah.
Really smart, and he's like,
Okay. Let's not go into the movie. Correct. Okay, but why is that such a potent point? Because his friend stands there and he says to him, no, you go do what you can. You've been blessed with something. You go and do that. Just the ability to see, to confront your friend and not allow him or the group to sink into lower levels, to demand something greater. I just always think that's a very, very powerful thing and something we're all scared of a lot of times. We're scared to stand up, and because when you stand up for something, people won't like you. You could get hurt. But if we don't do that, then where's our godly soul? Where's our connection to greater ideals than just what's easy and what's good for us? So this isn't what Mordechai is saying, something much grander scale, but I think on our individual level, we meet these things more than we would seem. In other words, we're reading a story about the Am Yisrael and the queen. There are parts where we have to ask this question that Mordechai is sending right to Esther. Sometimes we have to be the Mordechai to ourselves and say, hey, you, me, what's your take? You can't be quiet at this point. You can't be quiet. You have to do something. Yalla. Tov. Esther, boom. She got the point. Okay? V'tomer Esther l'ashiva Mordechai. Pasukah 15. Right now 16. Lech knos et kol haYehudim hanimtzeim b'Shushan. Go collect all the people, gather all the people, all the Jews in Shushan. Fast for me, alai, on me. Al tochlu, al tishtu, don't eat, don't drink. 3 days, night and day. So too, me and my maidservants will do this, and thus I will come to the king, not by law. I will break the law, lo kadat. And kasher avadeti, which is fascinating in the Eksher, we just talked about the word aveda again and again and again we see here. Vayavor Mordechai. Now, there's an interesting explanation of what Vayavor means. I believe Chazal say Vayavor. They say it's Pesach, people. She just said to fast on Pesach. Mordechai's over, like an Avera. Mordechai, Vayavor Mordechai. It's a strange statement in verse 17. Mordechai, how does it translate by you? Vayavor Mordechai.
Just left.
So left is Vayazov.
I'm sorry, Pasuk.
17, the last pasuk in chapter 4.
Chapter 4.
Vayavor Mordechai. It's a strange word.
So Mordechai went his way.
Went his way. It's a strange word. In the Hebrew, it's a strange word, Vayavor. And that's what Chazal hear. They say he was over Avera. And he accepts Esther's decree that everyone's going to fast on Pesach, which is fasting on Pesach. Not supposed to fast on Pesach, right? Vayas kechol asher tzivta alav Esther. We said how it flipped here. This is another nafochu. Up until now, Esther did everything Mordechai tells her to do. Suddenly, we meet Esther, the very willing and bright politician in this sense. But she's a woman. We're going to see how women work as opposed to men. Or not, but whatever, as Esther can work here. And now he's doing what she says. She's in charge. He has woken her up, gave her the what we call the slaps on the face, right? These psukim. She is woken. Her Jewish soul has been awoken. And she's motivated. Now she's going to be the one who leads the way. But before she does it, she realizes that she needs the strength of a people behind her, which is a fascinating statement. This statement, in my mind, is one of the most interesting in spiritual mechanisms. She says, what does she say? She says, you guys go fast for me, and then I'll come. Like, what in the world does that do for anything? They'll fast, I'll go in. But she realizes that as a nation, Am Yisrael has a power that is great, that you can't understand really. She understands that when Am Yisrael get together, and this is what they say, the Knosset HaYehudim, as opposed to Haman, who said, Yeshno Am Echad, Mefozar u'Meforad. You guys remember when we said that? Scattered and separated. Meforad, separated. Knosset Kol HaYehudim, bring them all together. We're going to show this Haman guy. Well, it's not Kibbutz Galuyot. He says, gather the Jews so that we are all focused on what's happening here. You all must fast for me. And break with Pesach. Isur, you have to, it's a mitzvah to eat matzah on Pesach. It's a real mitzvah. There aren't that many days a year when there's a mitzvah to eat something. Pesach and Sukkot, it's not from the Torah, but Pesach and Erev Sukkot learn from Pesach. Okay, that's where they learn Sukkot also, but it's learned from Pesach. That's really no, not Erev Sukkot. Sukkot, the Leil Sukkot, the first night of Sukkot. You have to also eat in the Sukkah. You have to eat a kazait. It's learned from Pesach though.
We still have, to me, I don't understand it. How have we resolved why they couldn't wait a week or even a day past Pesach or 7 days, 8 days, 7 days past Pesach? Mordechai doesn't give us that, right?
It doesn't give us that, no.
Because I'll give us any reason.
Well, we'll go into it a little bit maybe in the next chapter. And we'll see the urgency. Yeah, the urgency. So first of all, just that point is important. To understand that there is now Am Yisrael can use its spiritual energy to do great things and to affect reality. And in effect, ask Hashem, when again, I also find it so interesting, right? To daven by yourself or to daven in a minyan. So I mean, what's the power of a minyan? Many different people explain what the power of a minyan is. One of the things they say is when you are in a minyan, when you daven yourself, so Hashem comes and says, okay, let's see if he's worthy. Right? I mean, and you get checked. You get like a judged right there. It's a serious judgment to be on your own mul Hashem. When you come as a group, it's a completely different situation. When you come as a group, then there are many people here. That's right. He's not good at that, but he is good at that. And what he doesn't do right, well, he does do right. As a group, we're much more whole than an individual. Individual, as we talked about in the past, is only partial. You can only do as much as you can. As a group, as a klal, Am Yisrael is greater and greater the larger it gets. That's why there's a zimun on 3, a zimun on 10, a zimun on 100. It changes each time. There's a bracha to say when you see multitudes of Am Yisrael. There's something that changes. The greater, the more we are, the more power we bring, and the more Hashem comes towards us. All right, so this is it. The game is shifted to the next shlav. Esther is about to go in to the king. All right. So she now fasts. Let's read chapter 5. We're not going to do our usual reading and discussing, but we are going to read it. So let's read it out loud. Can someone read out chapter 5?
Back up what you said about the individual being partial, but the group being whole. This is why all of Am Yisrael fasting, the ones who couldn't fight, held more weight than just Esther fasting alone.
Exactly right. That's why she asked for it. Right.
I'll read.
Okay, go ahead. So let's read chapter 5. Okay. The next step in the story, some interesting things happening here. Yalla.
Wait, you want me to read in Hebrew or English?
No, in English.
English. Oh, okay. It was on the third day Esther donned royalty and stood in the inner courtyard of the king's palace, facing the king's palace. The king was sitting on his royal throne in the royal palace, facing the entrance of the palace. It was as the king saw Queen Esther standing in the courtyard that she found favor in his eyes, and the king extended the golden scepter that was in his hand to Esther. Esther approached and touched the top of the scepter. The king said to her, "What is it with you, Queen Esther, and what is your request? Up to half of the kingdom, and it will be granted to you." Esther said, "If it pleases the king, let the king and Haman come today to the banquet that I have prepared for him." The king said, "Hasten Haman to do Esther's bidding." The king and Haman came to the banquet that Esther had prepared. The king said to Esther at the wine banquet, "What is your wish? It will be granted to you. What is your request? Up to half the kingdom, and it will be done." Esther answered, and she said, "My wish and my request, if I have found favor in the eyes of the king, and if it pleases the king to grant my wish and to perform my request, let the king and Haman come to the banquet that I will prepare for them, and tomorrow I will do the king's bidding." Haman emerged on that day, joyful and glad of heart. But upon Haman seeing Mordecai at the king's gate, and he did not stand, and he did not move on his account, Haman became filled with fury against Mordecai. Haman restrained himself and entered his house and brought up his supporters and Zeresh, his wife. Haman related to them the honor of his wealth and the multitude of his children, and all that the king had promoted him, and that he had elevated him over the princes and servants of the king. Haman said, "Indeed, Queen Esther did not bring anyone but me with the king to the banquet that she prepared tomorrow too. I am invited to her with the king. But all this is not worthwhile for me. Whenever I see Mordecai the Jew sitting at the king's gate, Zeresh, his wife, and all his supporters said to him, 'Let a gibbet be prepared 50 cubits high in the morning. Say to the king that they should hang Mordecai upon it, and come joyfully with the king to the banquet.' The matter was pleasing to Haman, and he prepared the gibbet."
Okay, a gibbet is a tree to hang him on, or it's
like the gallows.
Yeah, a gallows.
Natural gallows, like a tree.
Yeah, like a tree. Yeah, I don't know what a gibbet is in. I just know what it says in Hebrew, so I'm translating back and forth.
Slur.
I never heard of gibbet.
Yeah, so to compare, you ever see the Pirates of the Caribbean where Jack Sparrow's about it, that thing they
Oh yeah, but this
So
is
do the same thing but with the
but
tree.
yeah, it's also very high. You have to understand. 50 amot is 25 meters, 75 feet. What is that? Something like that. It's ridiculously high. Okay, that's why we understand. It's way too high. It doesn't make sense.
I think it's meant not just for the efficiency of murdering them, but it's supposed to be high so that everyone will see it.
Yeah,
It's to send a message. It's not just about killing them, but
Very
sending
clear.
a message.
Twice the height of a house. So
More than twice the height of a house.
You see
Probably.
from this-
25 meters is huge. 25 meters is
Hanging
5
up in-
stories.
It was very difficult for me
More
to
than
read
5
it
stories.
because
No,
If it's
a
75
story.
feet,
Yeah,
it's
it's
like
seven. It's seven stories.
Yeah, it's like
It was
7
very
stories.
difficult for me to read this because it has the commentary embedded
Embedded
in
in
the
it.
text.
Oh wow, yeah.
The proper, the raw
To make
text
sure
translated
that
is in
people's
bold.
houses-
You did
But
such
the
a good
bold
job,
is not
no
very
one
heavy.
knows.
We wouldn't have noticed. You did a great job.
Very heavy.
Okay, guys. So Esther has a plan. What exactly is her plan? We're going to see there are going to be around 11 different opinions in Chazal. That's the page you have here. Fascinating. Mamash, I love this Chazal. But it's the third day. Esther comes not looking her best, people. I don't know if any of you tried to fast for 3 days without eating and drinking. Ever try that? I don't wish it on you either. She's not looking her best.
I'm pretty sure when it says that she didn't eat or drink, I mean that's only the daytime, not nighttime.
No.
No.
Laila vayom. They got you, Ezra. They know you kind of people want to eat in the night. She said Laila and Yom.
Not Ramadan.
No, not Ramadan. Right? So I've seen one explanation is that she went in like this to show that it has nothing to do. It's all Hashem. She's coming weak, doesn't look her best, to say Hashem is all you. I don't know. An interesting opinion. It could be.
I think it's a psychological thing that you've been building into us, saying about how Hashverosh has told her over and over repeatedly that don't think you're anything special. This is her going up to him saying, "I'm not anything special." That's what will make him so happy.
So Yosef's already gotten my chain of thought here. Esther, the weaker she is,
The more beautiful thing.
the more pleasing she is in his eyes. That's what it's going to say. She found favor in his eyes. This is her ploy. It's the same ploy that always works on the king. The weaker you are, the better. That's what he's looking for. He's not looking for a queen to come with her entourage. That raises all his manlyhood, his need for rule. The weaker you are. That's why it says V'tilbash Esther Malchut. Just it's always hard to read that. That's it. She wore royalty, but she looks really bad. What is lud? So Malchut? It's just a little jump off into Kabbalah here. Malchut is the bottom emanation, the lowest emanation, which is the feminine emanation of Hashem. There's Sfirot. I don't even know how you translate Sfirot. There are 10 emanations of Hashem into the world. The lowest is Malchut.
Life in Kabbalah.
I'm putting this in just a very, very general statement. But Malchut is the feminine, the accepting one, the one that allows everything else to play out on it. And in this sense, Esther is the height of femininity.
Yes, you got it.
Okay. That's what she is. She comes as the perfect woman. And the perfect woman in that sense is using herself as you can project yourself on me. I am a person that you can have complete and total projection on me. This is the man-woman relationship, okay, in a higher level of one who a give and a take, a giver and a receiver as a man and woman. She comes as the woman, completely open to him, completely under him, completely with no power whatsoever. That's what she's coming. This is Esther. This is how she's coming to him. And when he sees her, this is what he wants from his women. This is what he wants from his queen. He doesn't want a queen like we don't mention her anymore. Her, right? Like her. We don't want a queen like her. So she comes and she finds favor. It's very important. Pasuk bet, right? I just want to say the dramatics of these two psukim are really, really important. There's a literary way of writing, which is called He'ata, slows everything down. It sort of reminds me of the Akedah. In the Akedah, when Avram is about to sacrifice Yitzchak, it slows down. It says, Avram sends his hand to pick the knife up, to bring the knife, to slaughter him. So you have the same thing. The king puts his hand out with the scepter, and Esther puts her hand out and touches the scepter. And everything, she comes, she stands in front of the courtyard of the king, and the king is sitting on his throne. It's very, this is a very powerful scene. Right, very much. I mean, the movie should have been out a long time ago, Esther. I'm sure it is.
No, I'm surprised that there hasn't, in like the past 50 years, been a major box office or major motion picture made on the Megillah.
They're waiting for you, Moshe. They're waiting for you.
There was in antiquity, in the silent film era. I've seen it.
Right, no. You're right. This is, I mean, to go the depth of this, obviously, it's a lot of book stories are. There you go. Will be the Machon Meir team.
You know, they have all the equipment upstairs.
So, anyway, so Esther approaches and touches the head of the shavit, of the scepter, and then he says to her, Malach, what's with you, Esther? He understands that she has put herself in grave danger, right? The fact that she came there and wasn't killed immediately, the king had to go like this, right? It was a very immediate thing. And though she came, I imagine the guards were sort of unsure of themselves because their orders to kill anyone who comes in probably in their mind didn't include the queen. And suddenly when she comes, you could imagine like, if we kill her, remember what happened after the king remembered Vashti? You know, it's not so pashut to kill the queen.
Rob, but with all this, how would you, if this is the understanding that it's a danger, how would you get so close?
Okay, so I think through what I'm just saying now.
Right.
The queen passes and she looks at them. Right? I mean, the lower down you are, the further you are from the king, you could easily be awed by the queen. Did it, right? You look at your instructions. Does it include the queen? Does it not include the queen?
So she would have passed through those earlier
For sure. She's the queen. Yeah, for sure. She can get there. It's also what Mordechai says to her, you're the only one who can get there, possibly. This is his thinking. He's thinking politically also. If anyone can get there, it's you, because no one else can break through by Haman. Haman is the wall, the figurative wall around the king. No one has the king's ear.
Mordecai knew already about the rule and everything.
Esther says everyone knows.
Right.
Esther says everyone knows throughout the whole kingdom.
Mordecai says basically back there is like, I know everyone knows. That's why I'm asking you to do it, because you're probably the only one that could probably get away with it.
That's on the political level. We said on the religious level, there's what we talked about before. But yes, on the political level, she may have a chance to do it. That's why it's a real risk. What's happening here? It's not a joke.
Mordecai thought of both the political and religious
for
level,
sure.
and that the highest person with both of those accolades is only Esther.
I believe so. Yes, I would say so. I think Mordechai has shown herself throughout the Megillah to be understanding things deeper than we thought he does on the first reading. Anyway, so she gets there, and now the king is not a dummy. He understands that if she risked her life, she wants something, right? It's not to say, oh, hi, hi, just wanted to say hi. I haven't seen you for 30 days. No. He understands. So he says, ma bakashatech, right? He says, ma lach Esther malka. What is for you, and what are you asking? Now you'll see throughout the Megillah we'll say she'elati ubakashi, she'elati ubakashi, bakashati. There's my question and my request. There's 2 points. There's for me and something greater. So the king also understands, what do you want, and is there something greater that you want? And throughout the whole time it will always be doubled. Okay, she'elati ubakashati. Even when she's about to say what she wants, she'elati ubakashati. Me and my people. Nimkarnu ani ve'ami. That we'll see in me and my people. That we'll see in chapter 7. But from now on, it's a double statement, okay? So she says, please come to it. Now, look with me carefully at Pasuk Dalet, okay? This is the request, and here it goes. Im ala melech tov. That's how everyone always refers to the king, right? Im ala melech tov. If it's good for the king, will the king and Haman come today to a feast that you guys looking at the Hebrew? Asher asiti for who?
No. For him.
Lo.
Yeah, Haman.
Who's the lo?
The king.
What's the other
It would
option?
be lecha. But you could speak to the king in third person.
Maybe it could have been Haman or maybe someone else from the.
Look, I'm going to come home to my wife, or my wife comes home to say, and she says, Michael, let's go out for a nice romantic dinner. Me, you, and him.
No, but she says here, Imal Hamelech. She doesn't say Imal.
No, she's talking to the king. No, for sure, the lo could definitely, in the easiest reading, it's for the king. It's for the king. What? Or it could be for Haman. But it is not 100% clear, because why are you making an intimate feast with me and my vizier? What is going on here?
Like a business lunch?
Maybe. The king doesn't know, but he's definitely intrigued. And at first, he's just sort of like, okay, that I can do, right? Go get Haman immediately, bring him here, and let's do Esther's word. And they come. And there, of course, he doesn't seem to think at all that what she was doing was to invite him to a feast. There's obviously a purpose behind that. Now, she would not have risked her life to go out and eat at a burger's bar, right? It's not what you do. There's something behind it, something happening here. So he asks her again, what do you want? Ma she'elatech, you see, in Pasuk Vav, Uma bakashatech. So, Ma she'elatech hinaten lach, your personal request will be given to you, and your greater request, bakashatech, until half of the kingdom. And Esther says, now look at these pasukim. She'elati ubakashati. Remember, those are the two we said. Im atzati chen b'nei hamelech, ve'im al hamelech tov. If I found favor in the eyes of the king, and if it's good in front of the king, to give me my question and to do my request, will the king and Haman come to another feast that I will do for them tomorrow, and then I'll do what you said. So even if you could understand the lo for himself the first time, now they're equal.
And Rob, what is Kidvar Hamelech at this point?
I will do it as you said, to answer. Yeah, to answer. Now, there are games being played here.
There's a lot of sablanut by the king.
Oh, very good. Very good. Very good. Ariel says there's a lot of patience here by the king.
Even the
Now,
first time.
Esther is playing a game, a dangerous game here, because she's playing with a man who is not so predictable. The king is not so predictable, and Haman is a dangerous guy. She is playing a very dangerous game here. She's toying with them. She's toying with them, and even she understands that there is no way this is going to go past tomorrow. Okay? She could do it once.
She can do it twice.
No, she can't do it twice. She can do it once.
Twice.
No, she did it once. She invited him to a feast, and at the feast, she said, I'm ready to do another feast. That's the game part. She understands. The question is, what's the difference between today and tomorrow? Why'd she wait?
She's also wasting time. Like he's clearly an important person, and plus he himself, sees it as man above everyone else. What are you wasting my time for?
I mean, if there's more time in between the parties, then the king has more time to think, hey, what's this all about?
Oh.
Like he's like playing with his mind.
Okay,
But
so
the
that's
game
anticipation.
she's playing is that she's starting to make him chase around and make him chase after her. And he doesn't like, being told what to do.
so it could be. It could be there's a feminine, really pulling him out, and she's playing some games with her. It's the old
Haman?
conceal what?
Using Haman? Is
Well,
that where we're going?
we're definitely going to be using Haman here, but we're going to see now. Chazal, we're going to see what Chazal here say, and you guys could look now, because this is one of the greatest it's just great. This whole sequence in Masechet Megillah. Okay. Let's take a look. Okay, we'll read the English straight. Okay. Now all this is one story happening. It's not a story. It's just different opinions. What Esther was doing. Okay. It's not clear what she was doing and what her plan is. We're going to see all the opinions that come out here. We'll follow some of them, okay? Even though we'll see the amazing answer at the end of what she really was doing. Okay. The verse states that Esther requested, if it seemed good until the king, let the king and Haman come to stay at the banquet that I have prepared for him. That's the pasuk we just read. The sages taught in a Braita. What did Esther see to invite Haman to the banquet? It's clear that this is the game. She's inviting Haman to a banquet with the king. Something is strange here. What is her plan? So let's start it off. Rabbi Elazar said, she hid a snare for him. As it is stated, let their table become a snare before them, as she assumed that she would be able to trip up Haman during the banquet. One opinion. She needs Haman in her vicinity. She has no access to Haman. What, you want to go make a meeting with Haman? Why would you be meeting with Haman? No. The only way she can get to Haman is through the king. There she could bring him in. Possibly, in some way, she'll manage to do something. Because before I go on, we have to remember, in the king's eyes, Haman is the man. He's the only man. No one else has his ear in anything. What Esther's going to have to do, in order to do anything at all, is break that complete and total trust, that complete and total dependency. Somehow, she's going to have to break that. And this is what Chazal are saying. Maybe, now she has no idea what she's going to do according to this. She has no idea how. She just needs Haman in her vicinity. What she gets, she's like, how do you say? She's playing it by ear. She doesn't know what, but she needs Haman there. And I'll just add, it doesn't work at the first party necessarily. This is an interesting point. She doesn't find any chink in the armor. There was no plan to invite to a second party. And that's possibly why it sounds so stammering when you read how she says it. שאלתי ובקשתי, אם מצאתי חן בעיני המלך, ואם המלך טוב, לתת את שאלתי, לעשות בקשתי, אז יאללה, you want to invite him. She's thinking as it's going on. She says, tomorrow, I'll tell you. Right? Ever have it happen? You're in a situation where you don't know how to get out of it. And you say, maybe I'll give you an answer tomorrow. Okay? I don't have an answer today. It's definitely one good way to read this. It wasn't planned. It's not like she thought everything out. No, she wanted to do something. She wasn't sure what in the first meal, in the first Suda Mishteh. And it didn't work. It didn't work. She didn't find the right time, the right place. The king wasn't in the right mind frame. As David said, and we'll see later what happens. She didn't. So possibly it was unsuccessful in her mind. Let's go on. That's the first opinion. Rabbi Yoshua says she learned to do this from the Jewish teaching of her father's house, as is stated, if your enemy be hungry, give him bread to eat. She's using time-tested tactics, which are, when you're fighting with someone, draw him in. Draw him in. He can't stay your enemy when he ate on your table. He just can't. I don't know what happens, but he just can't stay your enemy. She's trying to soften him in some way or form. Maybe she'll be able to influence him, Haman, in some way, and maybe he'll break. But there are different ways we could read this pasuk in Mishlei, what exactly you get. If your enemy be hungry, give him bread to eat, and then he doesn't become your enemy, or then you'll break him, or then you'll beat him. What's the point of giving him the bread? Is it to make him not your enemy anymore, which is possible, or is it he eats your bread and then he falls to your power in a sense?
Maybe I'm taking something else away from here, but it seems to me like she couldn't find an opportunity to rat out Haman because the king might have taken his side. So she first had to see whether or not he still cared for her at all, seeing if he would agree to her request.
Interesting. Okay, in other words, it's strength. It's a good shita. What Yosef is saying is that she doesn't believe her influence, and if the king agrees to come to the feast, and then another one, she feels, he has the time for me. He respects me enough to do this. It's a good shita. I think it fits into other things here. Yeah.
That support that point with the fact that the first time she says, if it pleased the king, the second time she says, let's see, if I have found favor in the king's eyes, and it pleases the king.
She's begging.
Like the first one is a test.
Looking for something. Yeah.
And now she feels it greater. Yafeh. I mean, it all fit in. You'll see it fits into what many people here say. Rabbi Meir says, okay, this is the third opinion, right? They're all learning the Megillah. Just to reveal, these are our greatest sages. It makes me really happy to see they're sitting here trying to figure this out just as we are. In other words, they were sitting trying to understand the Megillah, and they go in different ways because they're met different ways to understand what's happening here. Rabbi Meir says, she invited him in order that he be near her at all times, so that he would not take counsel and rebel against Achashverosh when he discovered that the king was angry with him. In other words, she was going to rat him out, but she needs him there so that as soon as he gets ratted out, he can't maneuver any way to get out of it.
But why do we say rat it out? He hasn't done anything. He's doing exactly what he's supposed to do. We said a couple weeks ago.
Somehow she's going to have to rat him out.
You missed
the Malbim. You missed the Malbim.
Oh, that's good.
Yeah, the Malbim says he
It was on
does.
such a technicality that we're saying perhaps Achashverosh is in an innocent state of mind. He didn't have the state of mind to kill the Jews. He more had a state of mind to destroy what it meant to be Jews.
Right.
So
So when you figure out
the wording meant that perhaps they're going to be sold into slavery, so not be destroyed. And Haman twisted it behind his back.
Right, and she's going to pull that out on him, and she doesn't want to give him a second. So again, that's whatever it is, she doesn't want to, or on the pshat. That's one way of explaining. I've convinced you. I mean, Yosef's caught the Malbim, and he's with him the whole way. But I mean, most. I'm going on different tracks. Okay, I'm not subject to one track. But whatever it is, she doesn't want to give Haman any leeway. Doesn't want to have him act on his own because he's a dangerous man. In this Perush, Rabbi Meir already puts in that Haman is a danger to the king. To the king. See what it says? And rebel against Achashverosh. It's interesting. That has not come up until now. We'll see it soon when Haman and his crazy grandiose once, what do you do to someone who the king finds favor in his eyes, right? Go on the king's horse and wears the king garments, and we're going to see how much his power has gone to his head. But Rabbi Meir says already, Esther knows there's an actual danger to the king, which means there's a danger to her too, right? In other words, she has tied in with the king, that's for sure. She's not going to circumvent the king. He's her in this sense. So that was 3. Rav Yehuda says she invited Haman so that not be found out that she was a Jew. Okay? In other words, she wants to be part of everyone. We're going to go over this. These are less going with these ones. Rabbi Nehemiah said she did this so that the Jewish people would not say we have a sister in the king's house and neglect their prayers for divine mercy. She's saying, the Jews haven't been davening well enough. Well, I'm going to make them daven. Okay? So instead of them thinking that, it's okay, Esther's there, that's fine, Esther's going to save us, no, I'm going to show them that I'm a friend with Haman, and they're going to go, oh my gosh, Hashem, save us. Okay, in other words, it was a wedge to move them ahead. Rabbi Yossi said she acted in this manner so that Haman would always be on hand for her, as he would be able to find an opportunity to cause him to stumble. This one sounds much like Rabbi Elazar in the beginning. She hid a snare for him. That one sort of connects to that. Rabbi Shimon ben Manasseh said, Esther said, perhaps the omnipresent will take notice that all are supporting Haman and no one supporting the Jewish people and will perform for us a miracle. Now, it's like to point out to Hashem just how horrible the situation is. I have to invite Haman. I have to be with him. I have to relate to him. I have to give him kavod. Hashem, please save us. So these are towards Hashem, a couple of these ones that we saw. And she's acting, in other words, she's acting on different realms of consciousness, attempts, against Haman, against the king, against the Jewish people, against Hashem. She's shooting off in all directions here. That's what we've had here. There are 4 different levels of actions that she's doing here, that each one says he's going for. But let's go to the next one, okay? And the next one, I think, is probably the pshat, if there's a pshat here. Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha says, and we'll see later that others agree with him, I will act kindly towards him, towards Haman, and therefore bring the king to suspect that we are having an affair. And she did so in order that both he and she would be killed. Kasher avadati. Remember, that's what she says to the king. I'm going to go to the king. Kasher avadati. I am going to use my feminine charms here and focus them on Haman. Haman, the megalomaniac, will just say, hey, of course, why wouldn't anyone want to be with me? I'm Mr. Number 1. But the king, as we said, this romantic threesome here in the meal. What is a romantic threesome? How does that work? What are you inviting this guy here? And then you're smiling at him, you're laughing with him, you're joking with him. This is suicide. She's going to commit suicide. That's what Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha says. It's a wow statement.
And what does Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha say then in the end? How does that serve her purpose? If she's gone and Haman is gone?
Because Haman's gone.
But Haman's decree is still...
Oh, that we'll see later. That sort of surprises them also.
Because if this is the case, what's Esther's plan?
It's to get rid of Haman.
It's just to get rid of Haman.
Get rid of Haman. And then once the proprietor, the guy whose decree it is, then of course it's easier. Haman is a personal vendetta against Mordechai. Once you get rid of Haman, there's betach more of a chance that the decree will be annulled. Okay, even though it will surprise them that the decree doesn't get annulled afterwards. That we'll see later.
This way, she could be seen as more cunning than Haman, because say you take it one step further, that she's not just looking to show the king that she's being nice to him and sucking up to him. You could also say that at some point you could turn it around and say, this man wants to kill me and my people, he's blackmailing me, I have no choice but to act to him in this way.
Possibly. I don't think anyone says that far much, but maybe that would have been the way to save her. But he says it. But she said, no, it's a direct quote of Rabbi Yoshua ben Korcha, "V'yareg ani v'hu, ki hu v'ani." We'll be both killed. Right? Sheyareg hu v'hi. Mamash, it's a suicide mission. It's a kamikaze. It's really, that's what she's doing. She's giving herself up for her people. In the only way she can break the trust with Haman. This is what she's trying to do. She's trying to break. So there's one way to break it romantically, and there's another way. Okay? Rabban Gamliel says, Achashverosh was a fickle king. And Esther hoped that if he saw Haman on multiple occasions, eventually he would change his opinion of him. In other words, this one goes back to the fact that maybe she'll manage to break down some kind of thing in the relationship. But then Rabban Gamliel says, we still need the words of Rabbi Eliezer HaModai. In other words, he's saying, all these are great opinions. These were a lot of opinions, okay? We still need what he says. And what is he says? As it's caught in a Braita, Rabbi Eliezer HaModai says, she made the king jealous of him, and she made the other ministers jealous of him. And in this way, she brought about his downfall. Now, here he adds a very important point. Esther picks up on something that's going on undercurrent here in the government. We sort of talked about what the king was doing and why he made everyone bow down to Haman and how he only wants to hear Haman. But we have not yet heard another silent voice. We talked about Mordechai bringing out the voice of the Jews. He actually also brings up another voice.
People of those he stepped on.
Exactly, the ministers.
Especially if he's an outsider, as we said.
All the people who were part of this huge apparatus of the king, of the empire. And he leapfrogged, and he shut them up. And we don't hear them. We said we don't hear them anymore. They're also in this. Esther wants them to also start getting too much. This is too much already. The queen, she wants to ruffle other people's feathers.
Jealous that he's invited.
Exactly. Jealous that he's invited. In other words, that too? This is too much. She's trying to cause unrest politically and also the king.
Which
Now
exactly
jealous.
We saw with Daniel.
What?
With Daniel, we saw exactly that's what happened with the other ministers.
For sure. When Daniel goes up, they get angry and they want to knock him down. So they're angry at Haman. There's an anger simmering under the surface here. And Esther wants to bring that out. Somehow, we're going to knock out Haman that way also. So Eliezer HaModai brings another level in here. So we've talked about now, what are the angles she's working on? The ministers. The king and his relationship with her. The king and his relationship with Haman. Right? He's going to be jealous of Haman here. Doesn't mean necessarily even that he's jealous romantically. He's jealous also. Haman's getting really powerful here. Even the queen invites him, and Haman may start, and the king may start thinking to himself, maybe I went a little overboard here. If even I'm being equated to my servant, this is not exactly what I meant when I did what I did. I think that's what Eliezer HaModai says here. In other words, Rav Yoshua ben Korcha gave it a romantic and a suicide mission. Here it's not a suicide mission by Rav Eliezer HaModai. Here it's a political thinking, both ways. And then Dafka Rav Gamliel says that this is the answer. Rav Gamliel says, even though we had all these answers, we still need this one. Because this one, he says, apparently Rav Gamliel thought this was a good one. The other ones were also good, but this was a really good one. We can't go on without this. Now this is a great, great statement. Okay, Rabbi says Esther invited Haman to her banquet in order to fulfill the words which is stated, pride goes before destruction. Because lifnei shever gaon, you have to raise someone up. When he gets to the highest heights, boom, that's where he falls. Which indicates that in order to destroy the wicked, one must first bring them to the pride. Now look at this great. I love this ending. Look at this. The Gemara relates that Rabbi Baravua once happened upon Eliyahu the prophet, and he said to him, in accordance with whose understanding did Esther see fit to act in this manner? Just like we're sitting here, you know, what's the truth? So he goes, that's what he has to ask Eliyahu. He says to Eliyahu Navi, what did she really do? You know, you're the Navi, you're a prophet, you're, a spiritual being. What was the deal? Right? You can see him like leaving the Beit Midrash after all this stuff, leaving the shir, and you're like, no, what's the truth? That's what he asked Eliyahu.
When Eliyahu says, well, we want to open the Mashiach?
Eliyahu said to him, Esther was motivated by all the reasons previous mentioned, and did so for all the reasons previous stated by the Tanim and all the reasons stated by them. I love that answer, first of all. First of all, it's a statement on commentary, more than it's a statement on here. This is what we've talked about many times in this class, of how commentary isn't right or wrong. Commentary is the parts of the whole that doesn't even have to agree with one another. But it all exists and all is there. What did Esther really do? And for our purposes, Eliyahu says, all of them. Everything. Everything is a legitimate reading in the story of Esther. Everything here. So this is a statement on commentary that I think, again, as in Jewish commentary, it's unique in the world that we read things not as trying to say what is the ultimate truth. We're trying to say what is the greatest truth that I can get to. You can't be a liar. You can't be a false in your learning. You have to really get to what you believe is true. But with that, there's always the humility knowing that my answer doesn't mean your answer is wrong. It's a unique... I don't know if it's unique, I don't know everything about the world, but it's a very important part of Judaism, that statement. And Eliyahu says to him, you want the one truth? That's what he's asking him, right? What was right? He says, it's all right. It's all right, it's all right. So there, it's all there. It's all everything. She wanted everything.
That's all, folks.
What? Yeah. So this is what he answers. Whatever he did, she really shakes the king here. Okay, she really shakes the king. How do we know she really shakes the king? Because the next chapter is going to start with Balayla hu, on that night, Nadida Shnat HaMelech. The king How does it translate? The first pasuk in chapter 6.
Sleep eluded the king.
Sleep. So it's interesting. It's nadida is an interesting statement. Litnadned.
Could not
Litnadned is a good word. Why is litnadned? What does litnadned mean?
Bothers to swing to
Back and forth. This is a great it's a great definition of the king. On the one hand, she did this. On the other hand, she did this. On the one hand, this is nad nida shnat hamelech. He's like, 1 second. She invited me, but she invited Haman. Well, she was winking to Haman, but was she really winking to Haman? Well, do I really want Haman on my level, or do I not want Haman on level? On the one hand, he's important. He's trying to protect me. On the other hand, maybe it's going to his head already. On the nadida, what's going on? This is the king thinking. He didn't take his sleeping pills that night. He's sitting there and he can't sleep because everything he's built up until now is suddenly starting to crumble. Do I even rule my own house and my own wife?
Do I even rule my own kingdom now?
Well, right? Am I in charge or is he in charge?
Is this the same thing over and over again?
Exactly. I gave him my ring. 1 second, Achashverosh. Was that a wise decision to give one man all the power? Dun, da, 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 da. On the other hand, he's protecting me, but is he really protecting me, or is he protecting himself? Or is he protecting himself? So that's what's going to happen to the king. That's what we're going to see in a minute, what happens as a result of that. That we'll see next lesson. But let's just finish up the last psukim of Perek Hay. Okay? The last psukim of Perek Hay is Haman going out the next day, out of the mishteh, sameach v'tov lev. He is both happy and his heart is good. Oh, it's like perfect. Whoa. Beautiful day, right? Goes out and boom, wham, who does he meet on his way out of the gate? Mordechai, who...
And he does not bow to him.
No, he doesn't not only bow, he doesn't move, right? Lo kam velo za. Za is I think it's a unique, I don't think it's mentioned anywhere else in the Tanakh. Za. He didn't even budge. He didn't, from Zazu, right? He didn't move at all. Nothing. He's like, you're nothing, Haman.
He was supposed to be stoned to Haman.
Right. So you have to see how they translate za here. Ra shechutz ma shelo kam en lo shum yirah upachad. Right? He says there's no fear whatsoever. He doesn't only get up, he's not afraid of him at all. He says even if he was not going to bow down religiously, he at least should be afraid because he knows he could be punished. This is what the Malbim says. It wasn't affected at all. There was no fear. Okay, and Haman gets really angry. We see this again and again. Haman gets angry. The king gets angry. Mordechai and Esther, they don't get angry.
But this is after they already approached Mordechai. So this is not Bechavana on purpose to incite him, no?
Well, he's continuing what he did before.
No,
Right?
he's worried, but nothing wrong with standing. Now you can't say I'm not standing because I'm a Jew.
He's not bowing.
Because, right.
Right. It's right. Not even not bowing down. He's sitting. You know, it's not
even to move.
Right. It's not right. It's very.
This is not compliant. This is
him
a lack of respect.
This is direct defying Haman and the order. Correct. You know, it's not in the background anymore.
No, to defy is not to bow, but this is to insult.
This is saying you are nothing to me.
Right.
You are nothing. This is war, right? Okay, let's put it this way. This is war. Okay. And Haman, it shakes him to his core. It's fascinating. It shakes him to his core. He comes home. He brings everyone together. Right? Knos, right? We kanas the Jews to fast. He brings his loved ones and his wife, and he starts telling them how powerful he is, and how rich he is, and how many children he has, and everything the king has had. And look at the point. That the king has brought him above all the other sarim, all the other ministers. And even the queen didn't bring anyone else except me to this banquet. And tomorrow I'm supposed to come again with the king. And all this is nothing to me. Nothing to me. all the time when I see Mordechai sitting in Sha'ar HaMelech. Now, there's a lot to learn here about midot, about character traits here, about what do you see? Do you see the half cup? You see the full cup, right? His cup runneth over. Haman's cup runneth over, but there's one guy. I mean, what's the story? I mean, why are you going bananas about one guy? Tzedek is one guy. Makara. But Haman understands what Mordechai represents. Mordechai is saying to him, no, I don't accept your position. I don't accept your opinions. I don't accept your outlook on life. You and Amaleki, as we talked about, you, the one who thinks who has complete control and is in deterministic terms, can do whatever he wants, and he himself is a god. Mordechai, the Jew, says to him, no. And for people who feel they're idols, then he who's standing there with a hammer is a threat, no matter how small he is. Jews are a threat to everyone who think they are God. That's exactly what's happening here. No matter how small and how individual, even one Jew in the world is the end. I told you guys once a fascinating thing that Razriel Karlibach wrote about the Nazis, in that sense of saying that if he chooses me as his enemy, so in that same piece, he writes, if there's one Jewish child remaining in the world, then it is a threat to Hitler's vision. So he writes this fascinating thing. So he writes there. He says, even one Jew, even this Mordechai, everyone else is bowing down, everyone else I don't care about. He exists and he looks at me. Just his look, showing me that you are not who you are presenting yourself to be. You may be fooling everyone else. You may be showing everyone else may be bowing down to you. But I know who you are, and I know who he is. There's someone above you. You are just human. Strong human, powerful human. It's just you. And Haman is always attempting to, remember what it said in the Megillah? Asa atzmo Eloha. He made himself God. Not the Midrash that he put the cross on him, that he made himself a God. In his own eyes, that's how he sees himself.
He's trying to assert that on everyone else.
And he has the power to do so, but Mordechai does not allow that to happen. And that it enrages him. It makes him crazy because it's a mirror to him that shows that you are a fraud. You're a phony. Just one out of hundreds of thousands of people. Don't bow down. No self-respecting megalomaniac dictator can accept that. You can't accept even one person to say that. Mordechai is the one person. And the Jews in history are the one nation who also do that. We are not going to do what you do. We're not going to act like you act. We have a higher law. We have a higher responsibility. We bow only to God. He is the one who rules us with his morality and his laws that are the ultimate justice in the world. That is who we follow. That's why Jews throughout history are always the target of despots. The worse they are morally, the more they hate the Jews.
Because people cannot accept people who are different than them.
No, that's a low level of what I said. It's correct what you said, but that could be any nation, right? Really, in the depth, the Jew always says there is a God above, and he is the ultimate rule and the ultimate morality. He is the one who gives timeless and eternal law that no man can usurp and no man can change.
Carl Sagan used to say that he wanted to take all the cool rulers of history out to the edges of the solar system and point and say, you see that little dot? You've killed millions of people just to have a fraction of that dot.
In other words, that's like a perspective here.
Yeah.
Right, but this is a statement that's not just perspective-wise. This is saying we have a statement. We, the Jews, aren't saying everything is minute or everything is not really that important. We're saying there's something very important. But it's God's will which is really important and which rules the world, and not any individual human ruler or system. That cannot be. If it is a benign system, if it's a just system, then the Jews will play with it happily and be part of it happily. But they know how to do what Mordechai said to Esther. When the line is crossed, we can't do. This we can't do. This is not what we do as Jews. Again, we'll finish up here on as a Jewish state, this is challenging us. The Megillah is challenging us. Mordechai is challenging us. What are the boundaries of a Jewish state? We're not an individual anymore. Mordechai, acting in exile, acts as a representative of the Jews, possibly, or an individual. Now we are a state, we are a people, we have a say on the stage of history on a wider range. What do we as Jews, what's our say about Ukraine? What's our say about poverty? What's our say about justice? What's our say in the world? Ki mitzion tetzeh Torah. The idea is from Zion is supposed to come out a Torah that the nations of the world will look and say, we want to come to Yerushalayim and learn. The prophecy of Yeshayahu, chapter 2. We want to come to Yerushalayim and see the greatness of the laws of Hashem. This is what we're supposed to be portraying to the world. Understanding the depth of what it means to be a Jew who believes in all realms. We have a higher level of things, and we're scrambling now. That's what I feel. We're scrambling now. We suddenly have been thrust into nationhood, miracles of miracles, coming back after all these years in exile. Returning to Israel, we have to find our say. What are we presenting? What are we representing? What are our lines? Where do we say, no, this we can't be part of? This we will stand and say it's not moral by what Hashem says. It is not acceptable from the eternal God. We won't accept this. It's really the depth of what hopefully we will become here in Medinat Israel. Bezrat Hashem. Bezrat Hashem. So, Yofi, we actually moved people.